most common thing I'm asked about from out of towners when talking about moving to or investing in Buffalo real estate is the winter. And there's no doubt we get some pretty extreme winters around here. So in this video, we'll talk about what it's actually like to live here and deal with this stuff. Some things that you can do to best prepare, and if you do own property here, some ways to properly maintain given the sometimes extreme weather. So first and foremost, where you are in Western New York has a lot to do with how much snow you can actually expect. Generally, the more north you go, the less snow you're going to see. For example, Niagara Falls, which is pretty much the top western part of Western New York, they saw about 40 inches of snow total last year. By the time you get down to Buffalo, the city of Buffalo proper, we saw over 130 inches of snow, including about 52 inches over the course of 5 days right before Christmas in December of 2022. And then even as you go more south, you can certainly predict that you'll see more snow more consistently. And as you get outside of Erie County, we have ski country. Ellicottville is possibly the last small ski town in America, and they can sit. There's a couple of ski resorts. They get blasted with snow. Reason for that: so we're right next to Lake Erie, and we get what's called lake effect snow. Lake Erie is very deep, and the winds come over that, and it churns up a bunch of snow. And then the first thing that it has an opportunity to dump on is us, and the way that the wind flows. Generally, city of Buffalo and below is what gets blasted most often. I was actually on an airplane last week for what was our first snow of the year, and when we were taking off, there was a clear line. It was pretty much like just as like south of the city you could see all the snow, and north of the city is nothing. Almost everywhere it's going to snow at some point, and but most often in the southern tier or southern towns, you're going to see it more consistently. So, if you're moving to Western New York and you're under the impression that you're going to get 7 feet of snow no matter what, and you don't want to deal with that, move more north. It is that simple. Secondly, when you're dealing with snow, gear and tools are hyper important. I have people that come visit Buffalo quite often, and when they get here in the wintertime, they're underprepared with jackets and hats and gloves and stuff like that. That's pretty easy to check out the list. I personally just went and bought a couple jackets and 2 new pairs of snow boots. Hypercritical. Gotta have them. Even when you think, it's gonna be pretty close to warmer temp. No. It gets wet and cold and windy. You want the right gear. I like to keep a little kit in my car. Extra blanket, hats and gloves, stuff like that. A little trick I learned just a couple years ago, cat litter. Keep some cat litter in there. If you're stuck and your wheels are spinning, cat litter can be a good traction aid. If your wheels are spinning, you can put some cat litter down. It'll get you out of a tight spot. Great to have. Almost everybody I know keeps a little kit in their car for the winter time. And then you get into the big stuff. Some friends of mine live in California, and some of them had never seen snow before. And when the first time they saw a snowblower, it never even occurred. Like, I've been dealing with snowblowers my entire life. A snowblower must look so foreign to somebody that's never dealt with snow before. It is possible that if you live in Buffalo, you cannot overspend on a snowblower. A good top-of-the-line one, brand new, is going to be like $1,500, $2,000. They also make little single-stage ones that I thought were hilarious that anybody would even consider that until I ended up with one, and they're great. They're like $500. Little snow throwers, sometimes they're called. Can't overspend. And if you're really going to spend the big buck and you really want to be prepared, I know a lot of people that have backup generators, whether it be the ones that you roll over and pour some gas into and fire up like a lawnmower, great. You can run some small stuff on a refrigerator, stuff like that, great. If you want to go crazy balls to the walls, they make those hardwired backup natural gas fed generators. Those, from what I know as of recent, cost like $10,000 to install. If the power goes out, especially for extended periods of time, that big snowstorm we got for Christmas last year, power was out at my house for 5 days. Makes a huge difference. My parents have one, great. It's a lot of money. It's worth every penny if the power does go out, especially for extended periods of time. So, if you're prepared, the snow's really not that bad. A lot of the horror stories that you hear are from people that are completely unprepared. All-wheel drive and snow tires. You should have at least one, or if not both of those things. When you hear about people getting stranded on the side of the road, that's the kind of stuff that happens. Be prepared, and work together with the community around you, and you'll be just fine. And finally, if you're going to be a homeowner in Buffalo and Western New York, there's some things you can do to prepare your house. First and foremost, most furnaces these days are high efficiency, meaning they no longer have to exhaust to a chimney. They exhaust through a PVC pipe out the side of the house. And usually those PVC pipes are pretty close to the ground. If snow builds up by those PVC pipes, and it can't exhaust, it's going to shut the furnace down. And we've heard some horror stories of people who think that means the furnace is broken and they can't get HVAC people over to repair it, when really all it is that exhaust is plugged. You want to keep that as clear as you can. If it's snowing really hard, really fast, like it sometimes does, you're going to want to go out there, and as part of the shoveling you're doing, making sure that area is clear as well. Also, most houses have a little hose bib on the outside. You're going to want to, before the wintertime starts, most of those are going to have shut-off valves inside the house. If you do not have one of those, you're going to want to insulate that pipe, and they sell hose bib insulated covers that go on the outside. You're going to want to protect that. Certainly you don't want that pipe freezing and bursting, but even if it doesn't burst, that could break, and you want to get that buttoned up before the cold comes. And here's one that I just learned as I had new air conditioning installed in my house over this past summer. There is an outside portion of your air conditioning system, and I see them covered up all the time. You don't need to do that. And not only do you not need to do it, it's really, according to my HVAC people, you're really not supposed to do that. Those things are meant to be outside. You can put a cover over the top of it, but you really don't want the sides of it covered. It lets in all kinds of rodents and debris that ends up sitting and getting wet and cold, and you don't want that. So the air conditioning unit, you can leave alone if you want. If you want to put a little piece of plywood or something over the top, that works too. But just like being prepared with some of the items on hand, just some quick stuff around the house to prepare for the winter time. Make sure that you want water moving away from the house. You want to make sure you're not losing too much heat, stuff like that, and those are some good ways to prepare. So if you're thinking of moving to Buffalo, it's probably not as bad as people make it out to be. I actually enjoy the winter for the most part. It gets a little gray and cold at the end of the season, and I'd really rather be on a beach somewhere. But the beautiful thing is we can take off for vacation. Buffalo's a beautiful area. Costs are relatively low compared to everywhere else in the state and the country. It's a great community, and I wouldn't let the snow deter you from moving here. So if you learned something from this, or you want to learn more about Buffalo, feel free to subscribe, follow along, and if you're moving to the area and you need help with buying or selling real estate, give me a call.